Welcome back. You're watching Checkpoint. Thank you for staying with us. We've entered the second hour of the show, all to do with reviewing the key developments of the weekend. What a week it has been. It began with anxiety as Azimio had just declared to hold demonstrations for 3 straight days in order to agitate for lowering of the cost of living. And in turn, we saw the ugly side of the protest despite the low turnout generally compared to the other phases of the protest. In a snapshot, of course, deaths were recorded, running battles between police and protesters, disruption of businesses, and equally learning was disrupted, at least in the 3 major cities, Nairobi, Kisumu, and Mombasa. So we just want to analyze the net effect and the sustainability of Maandamano, even as we take a look at other key developments that played out related to Maandamano or not related. And I'm speaking about the push and pull between the current president and the former president, the showdown between Uhuru and President Ruto. So joining me to deliberate on this matters and more, allow me to graciously introduce my panelists. I'm joined by Ishmael Nyaribo, who's an advocate, not a new face to the show. Asante sana for your time. Karibu. I hope you had a fantastic week.
Thank you. It was a nice week, yes.
Asante sana for your time. Equally joined by Kevin Osido, a governance expert. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Karibu, how was your week?
Not bad.
Yeah.
A little bit of mixed feelings because of course, work has to continue, and in some parts of this country where we were expected to do certain activities, we were unable to.
Yeah.
Because of the Maandamanos. Yeah.
So you definitely felt the disruption, and we'll get to talk about it.
Yeah.
Equally joined by Odoyo Owidi, joining us in his capacity as a political analyst. But it's a pleasure to have you with us. Karibu sana to the show. Hope you had a good week.
Thank you. Not much to complain about. It was hot, but I expected it. I had to drive through roadblocks from Kisumu to Kericho on Wednesday morning. You can imagine the adrenaline, but I did it.
Well, and he's here to tell the tale. Asante sana for your time. So, gentlemen, let's start with the evaluation, perhaps on each of your particular analysis in terms of what exactly the Maandamano meant this particular week. 3 days of Maandamano. We expect Wednesday the same scenes to characterize at least various cities in the country. But the major question would be about the practicability of this approach. You know, is it sustainable at the end of the day, considering the sights and sounds we've witnessed on social media and mainstream media over the past few weeks and months as well? So I'll start with you, briefly.
If there is anything that should not happen to this country, it is the Maandamano culture. There was once a man called Osama bin Laden. He introduced, and to some extent, he encouraged what is called terrorism. Today, the cost of security in this world is so big, and we cannot reverse it. People have gone through it, people have grown with it, people have learned it. We have also introduced something called Maandamano in this country. Despite the comprehensive constitution that we have in this country, despite the independent courts we have, despite a vibrant parliament that we have, the 2 key issues for which we are on the road is the cost of living, and the other one is
IBC.
not really IBC, but cost of living and
Servers.
Open the servers.
Open the servers. And whatever.
Cherera 4, which one?
Cherera 4, we had forgotten long time ago. So if you look at these issues, the one that the court stopped, cost of living, and
The Finance Act.
And the Finance Act, correct. Finance Act, as we are speaking, has already been stopped by the courts. It shows that the courts are working. The cost of living, the general people who actually go to the streets complaining about the cost of living are people whose cost of living will reduce as soon as the harvests are in the stores. And already the harvests are in the stores. In Migori today, the epicenter of Maandamano, 2 kilograms of maize is 130. In Busia, I am told it is 110. In Papunditi, Kisumu County, I am told it is 150. Why are we on the streets? And I want to understand how being on the street is going to reduce the cost of living. In any case, reducing thus the price of maize alone cannot reduce the cost of living. And we are teaching our children, our youth, that whenever you don't agree with anything, you go for maandamano. That explains why in many places in Lowland, it is very easy to find parents walking into schools from matching teachers because their children fail the exams in those schools. So I think we are setting a very bad precedent. But I must say this, however sensitive it is, this maandamano is not meant to change anything at the national level. This maandamano is meant to antagonize the Luo with the Luo leaders who are collaborating with the government. I listened to Opiyo Wandayi speak today, this evening, and he told Kenyans that there are Luo leaders who are collaborating with the government to kill Luos. Those are his words. It means the problem is not the government. The problem is not President William Ruto. The problem is Luos in government, because ODM and its leadership want to have a very firm grip on the Luo. They want absolute control of the Luo because they have turned the Luo into a cash cow. They want a Luo land in which you say Gladys Wanga is going to be the governor in Homa Bay, and she will be. James Orengo is going to be the governor in Siaya, and she will be.
All right.
That is the Luo land they want. The Luo land where they have absolute control. In any case, these people, I have never heard them, especially the party leader, talk about development, comment about exam results, comment about harvests, have a plan for the future of these people. His plan is go to the road. And this maandamano, since we began, I think this was the 8th one, they begin on a note that it is clearly not peaceful. And they keep on throwing around Article 37, and Article 37 is written in English. All of us can understand that it has to be peaceful, and the participant must be unarmed.
Okay.
When you wake up in the morning and you find a ring of stones on the road blocking everybody, and you find bonfires, that is definitely not peaceful. And if all the 8 of them were not peaceful, they should be stopped because they are not going to be peaceful anymore.
Well, that's definitely an emotive conversation, especially around the peaceful nature of it. But let's bring in the advocate, because Article 37 is mentioned time and time again. And equally, we've heard about the, I took the vow to protect life and property. So I will not sit by and watch as, Kenyans' lives and properties are destroyed. So in terms of the law, and he's brought about Article 37, are we really peacefully protesting? Is this more of a riot? How would you term it in terms of the legalese around it?
Well, just a thank you. One thing we must first appreciate, all of us, like Mr. Widi has pointed out, Article 37 is in English, and we can all read what it says. And of course, technical people, split hairs and try to give interpretations from one side to the other, and try to make it look like there are 2 versions of Article 37. It is constitutionally allowed in the world over that if people want to come together and form into a trade union and agitate for their rights or for anything they feel they want to do is a right. That is the constitutional right, not only in Kenya, but in the Commonwealth and in other countries. Now, if you talk about Kenya, whether should people go to the streets if they want to go to the streets, that is the fundamental point. Should people go to the street? Okay, what is the available law that says this is how you can go to the street in this country? You need to, when you argue against anything called maandamano, for example, for your information, maandamano is a Swahili word for picketing, for assembling together and deciding to agitate certain things. They may not be your rights per se, but it's what you feel as a public that we should be addressed on this thing. That is why you see doctors come out, carry placards, and go to the Minister of Health and say, we want more salary. That is picketing. I mean, they've come together, and accepted to do something. The question then will be, should that be allowed or it should be stopped? Should that be allowed that Ishmael and a group of 50 people can come together as lawyers and decide that we actually want now to agitate this more in public so that the media can see this, highlight it, and so that this message can actually reach the Chief Justice, for example. Do you have that right or you don't have that right? If anybody argues there's no such a right, then of course we cannot engage on any debate on that. But if we agree there is such a right, now the question then would be the modalities. Should they then sit on the road or walk by the roadside or walk in the middle of the road? If you look at the experiences in India, my friend, and I've been there, they stage something called Roko, which is just a day for the people to do a sit-in. And they sit on the road. And they agitate for whatever they want. The only thing they do is they give a notice to the administration. And they insist that maybe people in charge of, let's say, water or farmers or drivers, they stage a complete sit-in. And the roads are impassable. Now, whether that is their fundamental right and that fundamental right, whether it then interferes with others who are not farmers. So those are issues that can be looked at by the government, by the administration. That's a different debate. But it is good that people understand fundamentally we must allow what is contained in Article 37. The right to picket, the right to assembly. This you cannot take away. Because of gun and power, of course, you can silence people for a time or for a longer period. You can say, no, I do not want this. And of course, people fear and respect authority. They will be like, okay, fine, so we've been told not to assemble. But you must know at the back of your mind that you have actually taken away the right for people to air their views in the way they want. Now, whether that's sustainable, again, I will come back to that so that my brother is also has a point to say. But I just want you to note that there is tension today in this country. This tension has nothing to do with the laws. Just say you must get that very clearly. The tension we have is not in Luo Nyanza today. The tension we have is all over the country, whether it is Nyeri, Mukurueini. That is why you see leaders come up and speak from the chest. They are like, Mkama nyinyi the wanaume, oh, not what? Because there is tension. There is tension indeed, because when you are a leader, you are not scared. Who is threatening you? You are a leader. You are a member of parliament. You are a commissioner. I mean, nobody is threatening you, but people are reacting to what is called tension. Now, the question just is, why is there tension in this country? And of course, I'll come back to tell you it is historical. We've never gotten leadership that is actually honest and able to take people away from small things. When you look at subsidies that the former government was actually giving people, why was the government allowing, putting subsidies, into commodities like fuel? Because that government thought, either rightfully or wrongly, that if we reduce the cost of fuel, everything else will come down. That is what Mr. Weed is saying, cost of living. So the present government does not think that that subsidy should be maintained. Why? Because they say, after all, these handshake brothers used to steal a lot of money from this subsidy, concept. Okay. Whether that is true, Jesse, or not, the public can never give you, if you are in leadership, a time. You cannot keep saying, oh, we need 7 months or we need 1 year to do. No, the public is crying like a little baby every day. We want this, we want that. And it's part of how you run government. Okay. So I think that question, I would put it squarely as it is. There is a right to picketing. There is a right to strikes. There is a right to assembly. You can actually do what you want to do together. Modalities of that is another story, and I think that is where the government comes in.
Well, that's where the rubber meets the road. He spoke about the rights, so let's speak about the responsibilities, even as you give us your take on the sustainability of maandamano. Because we've had, with right to picket comes the responsibility to, conduct yourself in a manner that is within the law. And a manner within the law perhaps does not mean engaging the police in throwing rocks and all that. But those are the sights we see once in a while when maandamano happens in the country. So what do you make of it?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Jesse. I think that one of the biggest issues that we have insofar as rights and responsibilities are concerned in this particular conversation, is the attempt to galvanize the maandamanos around either Raila Amolo Odinga, Mheshimiwa, and Azimio, without necessarily imagining that there could be people who do not support, they neither support Raila Amolo Odinga nor Azimio la Umoja, but they really feel like, yes, they are speaking for us. Where do we put those kind of people? And in the nature of the work that we do, that I do, I engage with this kind of a similar nature of people almost on a daily basis, including today in church, when one of the leaders told me, Kevin, I don't support what Raila is doing, I don't support what Azimio are saying, but I feel the issues that the government needs to talk about. So I think for me that even as we talk about rights and responsibilities, should we shudder to think about what are these issues? And can they be issues that we can tackle without personalizing them or personifying them and making them look like a Raila Amolo Odinga issue or an Azimio la Umoja issue? Because how come, as Wakili rightfully said, when we see teachers under NAT demonstrating, we don't see the police with this kind of force, you know? When we have doctors and nurses demonstrating, we don't see the kind of force. Does that therefore mean that there are other people who have more rights than others or more responsibilities than others? And I think that moving further to that is the question around the responsibility of government. And that responsibility, in my view, has been bestowed, particularly within the context of a maandamano, to the National Police Service. And so a lot of times we see the police responding. But then in a maandamano scenario, what is the responsibility of the police? And I'm really surprised at the degree of beatings that I have seen happening to my brothers and sisters, particularly back at home, you know, in Kisumu. And I ask myself, is it that there are other people who have more rights and the police has more responsibility over this particular group of people as opposed to other people? And so that begs the question, Jesse, around the responsibility of the organizers of the maandamano against Article 37 of the Constitution and Article 38, you know, political right to make political choices, against the responsibility of the government and particularly the police, and therefore the accountability of the police. Because it would be very difficult, and Wakili is here, to talk about rights and responsibilities without necessarily going further to talk about accountability. So who is going to ask the police, why are you shooting people? Why are you maiming people? Why are you killing people? And if even so we assume that it is not the police, then who is it? And if we have institutions in this country, Jesse, that are supposed to help citizens understand and underscore rights and responsibilities, then where are these institutions? For example, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, to now tell us we stand taller against the police, and so we are going to determine where the rights of the citizens begin and stop, and therefore the responsibility of the police to guard, safeguard, to protect citizens, to safeguard businesses so that they are not broken into. And we also want to see the people who've been arrested. We've seen a lot of drama around members of parliament, National Assembly, senators, and people being taken guns and security personnel being withdrawn. But we don't see people being arraigned. And the CS says we have arrested 300 people. That is such a huge number, Jesse, for us to just stop at a discussion around rights and responsibility. And further to that is the global image of the Republic of Kenya. What do our Tanzanian friends talk about? I have had friends from Nigeria who are telling me, Kevin, if you guys are not careful, you are going down. You know, when the deputy president goes to Italy, what is he going to tell the Italians against, what is happening in our country? So the global image, even as we talk about rights and responsibility, I think is one thing that we must underscore. And it is a conversation, yes, that I don't think must be revolving around Raila Amolo Odinga and President William Samoei Arap Ruto. I think this is too big, even for those two individuals.
Well, Owidi, as you come in, speak about, especially about the police service, because it would be hypocritical of us to call out the angry protesters who are going beyond what is enshrined in the law in terms of peaceful protest without calling out the police officers. We've seen videos circulating of unfortunate incidents of people being pulled out from their houses and being beaten to a pulp.
I want to comment on that, but before I do that, allow me to say something about the Kenyan budget, because wakili aliongea juu ya subsidy. Kenya today, the salaries is 700 billion. The external debt is 1 billion. The county government takes 400 billion. CDF takes 5 billion. There is a pending bill lying somewhere, 100 billion. If you add that, it's already crossed the 2.2, the 2.2 trillion, the maximum we expect to collect. And if, assume a Kenyan, an adult like me, would need a packet of unga, 2 kilograms, subsidized as 100 bob, so that it goes to 100 bob. And I use it a whole week. For 4 weeks, times 1 month, you will get 240 billion a year in that subsidy. This thing of subsidy is not sustainable. What is sustainable is what the president prescribed for Kenyans. Let's all go to our farms. Have more maize until we export. That is the only thing that works. Now let's come to your police thing. The only problem I have with what we see on the media, we see police brutalizing people. We see people running, we see bonfires. But when we see deaths on the road of persons purportedly shot by the police, nobody has ever told us how it all began and got there. Nobody has ever told us that. We need to see the full picture. I saw in Kisumu a supermarket broken into and looted to the ground. I am aware in Kisumu there was a policeman whose gun was taken and they ran into the Nyalenda slums. Definitely the police wouldn't let that gun just go. When they were trying to clear the road at Nyamasaria the last day, a gunshot came from the crowd. I don't know how the police is expected to deal with that. So we also must talk about both sides and judge them equally. So we can't come here and keep on saying, oh, so many people have died. So first of all, this whole Maandamano thing is unnecessary. It is unnecessary. And the mistake the organizers of this protest do, they do not take time, come to the media and say, we want to explain to Kenyans how they are going to do these Maandamanos. Tell them, carry no weapon, do not run or walk, do not light bonfires, sing, do not block the roads. If we had an operational act of it, like Wakili alisema, we could have had a scenario where they even choose the roads to use, so that we have available laws with modalities of how to do this. That we don't have. And that is what they are exploiting. So we cannot entirely blame the police, because you have 40,000 people on the road with a squad of 40 policemen. And they are telling us, why do they carry live ammunition? Let me tell you how the police works, though I'm never there. Assuming we have a squad of 20, you will find 15 of them are carrying those so-called rubber bullets. Another 2 are carrying tear gas. The other 3 are carrying live fire to protect this. Because they have to be protected. They can all be killed, especially knowing that they are not armed. I saw in Kisii, where wananchi, probably about slightly more than the policemen in a truck, and they chased them and they ran away. So it is possible that the policemen can be killed in the line of duty if some policemen are not given live ammunition to protect this one doing the right thing. I saw the so-called dramatic arrest in Mathare. We started seeing when he was ranting, then a policeman came off from the darkness, picked him and took it. But you should have listened to some statements which were made. There was somebody shouting, how could you beat a policeman? Then, he was coming bragging, definitely, as you could hear him coming. So, and that person wasn't killed. He was arrested. And I think the police did the best they could. The police can use any trick available, including camouflage, to arrest. I heard the media complaining that the policemen are hiding behind cameras to arrest, and that is not good for them. I know it may put your lives in danger also against the public, but that also makes you learn that the public is not peaceful. They are ready for war.
I think I think it's very important. Actually, it's important discussion. There are things we must appreciate that the National Police Service is doing, and when I'm asleep, they are working. You see, they do a tremendous job. We are limiting ourselves today to whether they should interfere with picketing, with lawful assembly. If the organizers of the picketing were to seek public opinion, for example, my own opinion, I would suggest that now that you want us to picket every other time, why can't you make it on Friday afternoon between 2 p.m. to 5 p.m.? That's my opinion. So that I can be able to get some clients come to my office and I sign some small matters here and there and make some fees. That to me, I would say like that. But I am never in the center of such issues. So I simply analyze them as I see them.
Well, clearly they are listening now.
Let me say this. However, Jesse, the National Police Service is not a national police force. That's number one. Two, it is not about me to really people control when we have a crowd. It is upon the National Police Service to control people and crowd control. It is really their issue. That is why if you go to the National Kasarani International Stadium, it will not be me or another person controlling the crowd. There is police. It is their work. So they shouldn't be so agitated to the extent that they actually use live bullets. That's number one. And the other thing you need to look at is if the organizers of the Maandamano give a notice to the National Police Service and the National Police Service rejects that notice. Are you getting the point? So you are already putting in motion conflict. The Constitution envisages a situation whereby all you need to do is to give notice to the National Police Service. That is where the friendship should start. Okay, you have agreed to, you have given notice to go on the roads on Friday? Yes. Okay, this is what I expect from you. The National Police Service, the IG, or whoever is mandated will come to on air and say, we have allowed this to happen because they have given us notice, but we will be requesting these Maandamano people cannot come to Kenyatta Avenue and cannot come to Haile Selassie Avenue. Why? Because we are hosting foreign presidents in KICC and we do not want that. And if these people do not obey that order, then they can be arrested. But Jesse, how do you explain 9 bullets into a youth? 9. We're talking about 9 bullets. How do you explain that a person was shot in the how do you explain that Pendo child who was shot the other year, the other years? Some of these things, by the way, are so serious that when you look at the way the National Police is actually looking at them, they are assuming that there could be another protection they have behind the National Police Service. Remember, in case of a conflict where you have to bring these matters to a report and a charge, or you have to appear in some kind of dispute resolution, you will not hide behind the president. You cannot hide behind the president. National Police Service is directly responsible, and they are working under the National Police Service Commission. So this is a matter for the police to handle, whether they want to kill or they actually want to. They can still stop Maandamano if they really wished to, without having to really slaughter anyone, by insisting on a good conduct and those values that are espoused in the National Police Service Act.
And before we cross over to Osido, just still on the legalese around the Maandamano, we've seen infringement perhaps on rights where people have been held in police custody for over 24 hours without the charges being read out. And I'm sure you remember Kamata Fridays. It seems to be back, huh?
Yeah, but you see, this is totally another issue that must be handled. I mean, if the Chief Justice is going to allow police officers to handcuff people in a courtroom where there is a judge and bring police officers, you know, anti-riot police officers within the precinct. You know, the judiciary has I think, an inspector of police stationed both at the Supreme Court and at the Milimani, and all our, you know, judiciary, you know, courts are actually protected by the National Police Service. So you must show that you have been so overwhelmed that you need to bring anti-riot police, and it was not a terrorism kind of allegation. I mean, conspiring
to commit subversive activities, you know?
I don't know, that is a very old law in the real sense. And this MP was actually flying from Mombasa to Nairobi. And I wish he was arrested somewhere in Nyalenda, and even a Kenyan would imagine that, yes, this guy is going to intoxicate the youth's mind. He was in flight back to Nairobi. So yes, that's another big issue. But I think the Chief Justice has a lot of homework to do, even to present herself among her friends in the Commonwealth. I mean, they have all these clubs. What is she going to explain? I mean, are we going to be a laughing stock in the country, in the world, whereby people just say what's happening with Kenya and don't they know the law, especially after the standards set by Maraga? I really actually feel bad at the moment.
Osido, as you come in, because it's brought up that issue about, you know, committing subversive activities. I came across an Amnesty International report in 1995, reacting to the KANU era, you know, type of politics that used to happen. They termed the charges as a misuse of criminal charges against government critics. So add your voice to this.
I think, and I keep saying this, especially from a leadership and governance perspective, that as long as we have institutions like the National Police Service, institutions like the judiciary, institutions like the legislature, there has to be a process of an induction. So that then, when somebody is writing an accusation charge and is using terminologies like, you know, subversion, what exactly is that? Yeah? What is your intention? When you arrest someone and you hide them away for more than, the Constitution in Article 49 says, the right of an arrested person, if there is nothing, subject these people to the nearest court of law within 24 hours. So when we have entrusted as a people, individuals within institutions with certain rights, with the belief that they will be as responsible as the Kenyan citizens expect, why do we want to subvert the same responsibility? You know? So I think that, Jesse, it's probably because I know there is an MP or a senator who was a member of the National Assembly who has decided to draft a bill on how to conduct mandamanos. I think it's really going too far. But if there's going to be a public participation process on that particular law, then it might give us the opportunity to really talk about what mandamano is and how to conduct it. Because yes, I have organized mandamanos, both as a student leader and even as old as I look today. The notice is a very simple thing, Wakili and Mheshimiwa. Why you need to give the police a notice is not so that they stop it, because whether they like it or not, the mandamano, for the purpose for which it is supposed to go on, it will go on. But imagine a mother who is being ferried in an ambulance, is about to deliver, and you are there blocking roadblocks and telling them, kwendeni huko, hiyo ambulance ni ya nini, choteni kitu. And we are risking somebody's life inside this ambulance. Imagine, like Wakili says, now we have over 15 heads of states here, 50 ministers that Kenya has been hosting in the last 1 week. And then we want to get into the CBD, you know? What is the kind of image that will be given to these particular heads of states? But of course, the converse is also true, that if the Constitution expects you to submit petitions to public officials. Most of our public officials or officers are actually within the CBD. Many, many years ago, Uhuru Park was closed, where actually people would go and finish all their demonstrations, and it was a place where people knew maandamano inaishia wapi? Uhuru Park. Where are citizens now expected to demonstrate towards? So I believe that the people that we have given the responsibility by extension, especially insofar as even how they do their charges, how they act around people who demonstrate, are using that authority, Jesse, through a mechanism which I sometimes think that they also do not understand, which is why I spoke initially about an induction session. So that, because now Kenya, we are much more accustomed to maandamano. The police might be taken through a process of non-violent demonstration. And I have seen maandamanos where they are very peaceful until when a tear gas is lobbied. They happen every day in Mathare. They are quite peaceful until maybe one or two people who actually, in my view, need to be arrested by the police. And because in most of these groupings, there is always that person who emerges as a ringleader. Why is it so difficult for the officer to go and say, na huyo kijana ni wa nani? Anatoka wapi? Then you basically, because there are so many police officers, send an entourage and arrest that person. That the kind of pouncing that we are seeing today. So I think that it's a good moment for us as a people to talk about what is happening in our country. But I am hoping, Jesse, that we are learning certain lessons. And one of those lessons that we should be learning is the 2007 post-election violence lessons. Why did Kenya burn to that level? The National Police Service was actually a resident of the ICC. Are there any lessons that we learned from that particular process against all the security reforms that we have had and we continue to experience even as a people and as a nation?
Okay, Owidi, add your voice to that here.
This issue of the court, the information I have, I do not know whether I'm right or wrong, but it is the judiciary who called the riot police into court because the crowd that had come in support of the MP were too many. About brought to court and being arrested, I have seen before. A person is brought to court for charge A. When it is done and bailed, charge B is there, so is rearrested. That happens. I do not know whether that is the case because I don't want to say anything. Submitting petition can be submitted by one person. It doesn't have to be a crowd. The reason why this Article 37 was allowed into law in the wordings which it has, peaceful, unarmed, picketing, and such things, because it was entirely meant to create awareness. It was not meant to force the government to do what the government does not want to do or cannot do. It has to create a forceful awareness that the government, this is what ought to be done. This is what the people want to be done. Do it. And I think in our case, the government has listened. No person less than the president himself has come to say how we are going to deal with the cost of living, beginning with food. Let's give our people fertilizers and seeds and encourage them to go and farm. And today they are harvesting across the country. But to say let's give them subsidy, they will forget and think even if you don't go to the shamba, you will always buy unga for 100 bob. How long can we sustain that? So let's be honest with ourselves. When we say that the maandamanos sometimes are peaceful until, that I agree, I've seen them. I have seen teachers do this. They walk and walk and walk and even go back. In fact, they go back and have a joint meeting and address themselves. Lakini hii yetu ya Azimio, unaamuka asubuhi, you find behind your house, there's a roadblock of stones and you can't pass. Okay. And there is a bonfire somewhere and there's road burning somewhere. So from the beginning, ab initio, there is no peaceful maandamano in the ones organized by Azimio. It would have been rare if they had the courage, they had the goodwill to teach those who are going to protest that the protest, for it to be peaceful, the ABCD is what you need to do. And if they were even good, they would even select the roads. But you see, no one less than their leader himself is fighting with the police to get into the CBD where valuable goods are being sold.
All right. So And before we cross over to Wakili, we've had clerics call for dialogue. What do you make of this honest conversation that is being agitated for between these leaders who are, pitting against each other?
I have listened to those religious leaders, and I think they are utterly dishonest. Why do I say so? There was the bipartisan, which had all these things, the five of them, and Azimio walked out of it. We cannot have a scenario where you go to parliament, you are outnumbered, you walk out. We form a bipartisan talk, and you think you don't have the capacity to argue and put your case, you walk out. You go to court, because the court does not rule in your favor, you go to the streets. If you are a leader, a nationalist, sometimes you have to do a little sacrifice so that you steer and guide the country to a lawful country. You guide the country to democracy. But the way Azimio is guiding this country, any opposition in the future will always think, each time you are outnumbered, you walk out. Each time you don't agree with a court decision, you go to the streets. Each time you don't like something, maandamano, because there's an Article 37. That is what we are being taught here. So what these people should have said, return to the bipartisan talks. And that, you would have been talking to Azimio. But you see, there's a problem with weak people. They want to please both sides, including the wrong side.
Just before you really leave that point, you see, we had elections, and the law is very clear in terms of who is a majority and who is a minority in parliament, and how many members of parliament have come to parliament from this particular party and this party. If you look at those figures were literally mangled and completely trashed immediately after the elections. We must be honest and frank, forthright in our discussions. So how many people from Jubilee came to parliament? And how many people from UDA came to parliament? And how many people from ODM came to parliament? And how many people from UDM came to parliament? So using executive powers to attract members of parliament who have come through the opposition strength, and then you buy all the team, and then the team belongs to the government. Already you have numbers. There is no discussion that the finance bill will pass in parliament, isn't it? And it has been passed, isn't it? It is now in court. Even if the court goes ahead and, approves it, it does not then help the Kenyans' tension. The Kenyans who have this kind of tension of how can I live, how can I have 1,000 shillings, and it actually can do nothing to feed my children and myself. So we must always look, like Owidi says, let's be honest. You must always look at the answer of the problem. You must find a solution. The solution, Jesse, is not to buy members of parliament and make them ruling coalition members of parliament. The solution is a honest dialogue. If you say, okay, bipartisan dialogue, when you are there, when you are already making arrangements, you drop 2 MPs again to your side. And you then choose from the ones you have bought from the other side, and you say, now you'll be a member of this committee. What is all that? I mean, I think we can play politics. And the president has confirmed himself. He's super in terms of calculations and the strategies. And by the way, that we give it to him. Actually, if the Azimio team had any plan in their, even today, if they had any plan, they would correctly challenge the president. They don't have. I apologize to whoever is hurt about that statement. They don't have. William Ruto has strategies from, I think, 2017 or 2013 to date. And he continuously implements them to date. Now we will cry, people are being shot and they are being killed. So what is the opposition leadership going to do? So unless they clean their intentions and they stop being corrupt and stop being selfish and stop thinking just about themselves the way they did in 2022, and William Ruto was very smart and then he just had to score, and then you of course, some people have said he scored by the hand, he scored by the head, he scored using the wrong leg or whatever. But in reality, if you look at William Samoei Ruto, in honesty, he is a strategist, and even today he knows actually where he wants to go. If you look at the way he's now dressing, where are this? I mean, where is this attire coming? No, but that is I'm saying the truth. I mean, he has where he is going. The problem I have with actually the opposition, and I empathize with them, is they actually don't have that strong strategic plan. And because of that, a lot of people go and say, no, we are Azimio, we want to support you. But then only in the morning when they wake up, they realize what happened with you. So there must be a strategy, by the way. The only problem is we should not propel fire to encourage the president to allow this country to be massacred by police officers who are supposed to protect people. By any conversation, we should not encourage the head of state to go a direction that means to extinguish this country. I mean, you saw what was happening. A member of parliament in Kisii was completely out of order. I mean, he spoke too much. He said how he wants the president to act. Somebody has 100 guns, somebody has this. That kind of war drums should never be allowed by our leaders. We should encourage the president that, fine, you have where you want the country to go. We actually want to see what it is, and we honestly want to support a good direction, but killing people and actually, eliminating a whole population cannot be accepted in this country. Yes.
So he's spoken about the strategy. As you come in, tell me, what strategy is it in going after a former president? Because we've definitely seen reports and a statement by the Interior Cabinet Secretary alluding to, these 23 firearms, some of which were suspected to have been used in illegal activities, are kept in that area, and that's why they were raiding. But many might read a little bit too much into it, the political inclination, of course. What do you make of it, and what's the strategy long term?
That strategy, Jesse, is lame. In my view, it is quite weak. It is unnecessary, it's uncalled for, and that is purely why I think that I would advocate for a dialogue. Whether it's a dialogue of just two gentlemen or a few good men seated around a table and having some bowls of soup or uji or,
And talk about what? LDC, cost of living, what exactly will they do?
You see, what they'll be talking about is, sasa wewe unasema kijana yangu ako na bunduki, si unionyeshe. Because like the former president said, he showed up, the policemen left. There should have been a moment of a dialogue. And that dialogue, I think, doesn't really have to be, yes, of course, to ease the tensions that we see in the country, it has to be about the principles. But even there are lieutenants, if I could say that, like a police officer who is acting and is on duty, is acting and is charging that responsibility on behalf of the IG, who is doing it on behalf of His Excellency the President. So a moment of conversation between the former president and police officers who have been sent to his homestead would be a good thing. It would give us an opportunity to actually get to know the truth. And especially when a cabinet secretary, particularly of Interior, comes and says, we suspect that these men, these households have 23 guns, 100 guns, and all those other things. That is a conversation that I think should not be sensationalized. It is an opportunity for Kenyans to have detailed talks around owning a firearm in this country, because there is actually a board that vets people. You get licensed, you are given a small card, and then you are given a firearm. What then has happened? Is it therefore that we are going back to revenge? Because earlier on you spoke about Kamata Fridays, and we know who actually were being targeted then. Are we going back to revenge? And the president, I remember a number of times we have asked him to be magnanimous, and he has made very endless promises around being a president of everyone and not seeking for revenge. Sadly, I haven't heard the president actually retorting about what the former president spoke about, So is the president revenging? Is he using people around him to want to seek revenge? Which in my view, Jesse, especially at the level of the president, we respect President William Ruto so much. In fact, I'm now beginning to get a tailor, Wakili, who can also make something that looks like what the president puts on for me. But I don't want to put it on. Then people begin saying, you are behaving like that gentleman, because we respect the president so much. So that that's a conversation, in my view, that can be had at a dialogue platform. Whether there is nothing to talk about, look at the former Prime Minister and the President at Kasarani, just over a soccer match. The country was so peaceful. You couldn't even imagine that there are certain simmering issues under the tables. And within a very short time, it died. So we are calling them to that kind of a platform. Whether with the former Prime Minister or President Uhuru Kenyatta, we want to see people having conversations. And that if the people who act on behalf of the President act ultra-vires their powers, we want to see the President calling them off. The majority leader of the National Assembly, my good friend Osoro, cannot just be making statements that sometimes, because he has seen a crowd, so he feels so happy about the people seated there. Those people also ask themselves, na ule ndugu alikuwa nani? Like, I have a friend of mine from Uganda who actually sent me the clip and he was asking, who is this guy? You know, we want our leaders to act with decorum. They are representing this country. And because you are an elected MP, doesn't make you so different from Jesse. There is a space that God has made so special for him, and it doesn't make you so special than a boda rider. In fact, it doesn't make you so special than that person who is begging for money at the entrance of Bunge. It is just grace that you have for now. And within 10 years, if you are so lucky, you will be off the seat. So why do you want to make it so special, like you have all the powers, you know, to say so many things without necessarily thinking about who is listening to you? So in my view, Jesse, I think that it's whatever is happening in our political context and even the economic context right now is an opportunity for us to have a moment of dialogue. Whether it is between the President, former Prime Minister, the former President, it is for them to find themselves. But one thing that I know is an opportunity for a phone call between those men really calms down the tensions. Whether people are sleeping hungry, whether people are walking and parking their vehicles because of high cost of mafuta, the country will be so peaceful.
So at the end of the day, Widi, because according to what he says, you might think that, you know, it's about these individuals. At the end of the day, it's not really about the cost of living, because if these gentlemen are supposed to sit down and iron out their differences, where does this leave those banging sufurias on their heads, you know?
It is not. It is not about the people. Because even these people who are purporting to be fighting for the people, I never hear them advising the people on issues education, on issues development, on issues farming, nothing. The only time you hear them is about Mandamano. But there's something I want to say about the composition of parliament, Jubilee, KK having more and so on. It's been thrown into our faces again and again that MPs are bought. Nobody has put evidence that somebody bought them to cross. There are many people who have crossed because of the bad manners in the parties they are in. One particular person like that is me. I was once in ODM, and nobody bought me. I crossed because I could not take the humiliation anymore. So nobody buys anybody. When you are a person with no plan, I'm glad you say a president with a plan. When you are a person with no plan, you lack statecraft. In fact, let me tell you, if what governance I see in ODM were to be superimposed on the national government, you would never want the leader of ODM to be a president, because nobody has a right to do anything or say anything. Coming back to the president's case, if it is true that the family has 23 guns and the government is seeing guns in the hands of non-policemen during Mandamano, then it is fair that they are taken. But if that is not true, then I would be sorry for them. But there's one thing I don't like. You cause insecurity to ordinary citizens, but you want to maintain yours. The citizens pay taxes, and the taxes provide you with a government security, a policeman, and you want to carry this policeman to the streets to confront other policemen who are trying to put law and order. If I am going to cause insecurity to other Kenyans, remove my security also. That is logical. And I remember when we were going to the last general election, the president's, the DP's children, their accounts were all frozen. It couldn't have been worse than that. But I can tell you, I don't believe he's trying to do what was done to his family. Because he has clear reasons for having related that. There are 23 guns and they have to be returned. They can remain with 111.
All right, gentlemen, I think our time is up. Interesting conversation. I mean, time flies when you enjoy yourself. But thank you so much for your input right here. Definitely highlighting some of the highs and lows of the week. There's a burning point.
Yes. I just wanted to, because you asked about the religious leaders. The call for dialogue is not just about religious leaders. Jesse, people want the principals to speak. Right. And speaking that conversation will be able to not only bring down the tensions, we will be having an opportunity for tolerance. Because you are a president, it doesn't have to antagonize and disenfranchise a community. The people in Kisumu are not happy, particularly because of what is happening, and we are asking that if it will call for dialogue between the president and the former prime minister for those kind of nonsensical acts, particularly by the National Police Service, to stop, so be it. That goes beyond the calls by the religious leaders.
Okay. Well noted. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. Kevin Osido, governance expert. Odoyo Widi, asante sana for your time. Political analyst. Ishmael Nyaribo, advocate. We've definitely deliberated on some of the key issues. And of course, we can't expound about everything that's happened over the week in just 1 hour, but we've definitely highlighted what you need to know. My name is Jesse Rogers. Have yourself a good evening and have yourself a great start to the week. Goodbye.